As coaches, we frequently say that the result of our work will be seen down the line. It's not just the wins and losses today, but it's really what do these young men go on to become after we've coached them? What lessons do they take with them from this game? And I'm excited to be joined here today by a former player of mine, somebody who played for us at Oberlin College. And he's here to share his football story, but also an idea that came out of conversation that he and I had, some ideas that we kicked around, and he's turned it into something that can help coaches, something that can capture this season for you and tell the story of your season in a unique and different way. And I think we're at a historical time coming out of this shutdown, and I think this season is going to be something that all of us look back on. I know we're looking forward to getting out on the field, and that's a big accomplishment in and of itself. But once we hit with this season, I think we're going to want to capture it forever. So Chris Herman is here, a former player of mine, to talk about that. Chris, I'm excited to have you here as a guest on the podcast.
Hey, glad to be here, Coach. Thank you.
So a little story about Chris. And, Chris is a guy who was at Oberlin for 2 years. And so in his second year, he's working extremely hard. There definitely was a quarterback competition at the beginning of the year, and there's a very talented freshman who came in, but Chris just kept plugging away. It was his senior year. He wanted to be able to do something. He wanted to be ready for any opportunity that he might have. So the opportunity came. The guy who did win the starting job went down during the season, and Chris was getting ready. Was doing a great job. In fact, I remember back at the time I was writing an article about just correct quarterback drops, being able to throw on rhythm. It was one of the things Chris had been working on, and it was that week, like it finally clicked for him, and he was just ripping the ball all over the place. He had kind of cleaned up some footwork issues that he had. And then it was Thursday in practice, kind of a walkthrough, a light day. We were in shells. Chris didn't like what he saw down the field. I remember I was standing behind. He escaped to the left and just went down on the ground. And having had a knee injury before, I knew exactly what happened. I knew it was his ACL. Sure enough, his ACL was gone. And, so on a Thursday, we're getting the next quarterback ready for a Saturday game. But, what was nice about it is Chris, he came back. He was a leader on the team. Just always someone with a positive attitude. I mean, that for a lot of guys, especially at a young age, is pretty devastating. But, Chris was positive and upbeat. And so Chris, I don't know if I've ever had that conversation with you, but that was certainly something I admired in you as a player, something that stuck out in the guys that I've had the opportunity to coach over the years, was the way you responded to that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth saying. I mean, it was obviously devastating. I was excited to get my first college start. But, that week and the week prior, just getting a lot more reps in practice, I just came to enjoy the process. I mean, just every rep was fun. I enjoyed it. I put less pressure on myself, and it just started to really click. And I have to say, like, even my senior year coming back, my relationship with the game, changed. Like I didn't end up starting my senior year back from that injury, but even every day, my mindset going into every practice was, I'm just going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy the heck out of the game, and I'm never going to be able to do this again. So even if reps are such reps, I'm going to make the most, and I'm going to make our defense work. And so I was blessed to be able to play D3 ball and to be surrounded by great dudes and to have that opportunity. I don't have any regrets about it. I mean, that's how life goes.
Well, and the neat part of it is, Chris still would come around the office and be around, and so that relationship kind of started to develop in a different way. He wasn't a player who was on the field anymore. He still wanted to be around and help in any way he could, but got to know him a little bit more as who he was as the student. And I didn't coach the quarterback, so we didn't necessarily always have that kind of interaction. I was the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, but he and I just got to talking, and I kind of always figured, like, Chris, just seeing him, I knew he was a finance major, and he was involved in a lot of things in kind of to me, was a leader. He was a guy who really could take a lot, like didn't get upset about things that were said about him by other people and whatever, campus groups he was in. And anyway, I just thought, man, this kid might be a politician or he's going to be on Wall Street. And we started having conversations, though, just about, business ideas. I'm not sure what class you were taking, but you and I started just kind of talking about different business ideas and kicking things around. And then, what's funny is I find out, a couple years later, I see Chris in the hallway at the AFCA, or in one of the big hallways. I think, were we in San Antonio, Chris?
It was San Antonio 2 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, yeah.
And what are you doing here, Chris? Are you coaching now? And he goes, no. And he tells me about it. And basically, one of those ideas we had talked about became a business opportunity for him. And still kind of he's there because he does work with coaches. So I thought this was really neat. But Chris, I'll let you expand upon that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think it originated on a 5 or 6 hour bus ride back from, I don't know if we were playing Wabash or
Wabash or Wittenberg. It could have been DePaul. It was a long trip. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were at the front of the bus, and we were talking ball, and then our conversation actually shifted to business. And I know you've always, I know you advise like different startups, and you're a very entrepreneurial guy as well. And so I think talking ball kind of turned into talking business, and so we were, constantly just or occasionally just talk about different ideas and share them and get your thoughts but yeah, like basically I just realized that there's that at the high school and college level, there's huge fan engagement, team promotion, and like sports information, if you will, opportunities that are really untapped, and athletes just don't have a way to remember their careers. All this content is scattered across social media or different websites, and so yeah, that's kind of how Story of the Season was birthed, and obviously with your help and other mentors' help, and just kind of tweaking things as it goes, and then it kind of transformed into a really cool recruiting platform for college coaches. We publish custom recruiting magazines that help them virtually engage recruits and really sell their programs. So it's been a really fun, wild ride seeing it start out of nothing. Having to quit my job in Cleveland to go full time with this. It's been a really fun but emotional roller coaster, and it's nice to see it start to take off a little bit. It's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think as you describe it, that emotional roller coaster, it's one of those things when you look back at to the game, and you played all the way through college through your senior year. A lot of guys will finish that at the high school level, but you stuck with it, and it was that emotional roller coaster. You learned to deal with adversity. You learned to deal with disappointment. And certainly if you're going to get involved with business and, trying to build a company, trying to sell a product, you're going to deal with all those things.
Yeah. I've got, try to condense these, but I, when you say that, I can't help but think of a couple stories that need to be shared. I remember living in downtown Cleveland. I was doing investment banking, a great job right out of school. I thought, this is what I always thought I had to go do. But I've been working on the idea since college and tweaking it and had the dream of building this up. And so I fly out, I take a couple days off of work from Cleveland, and I fly out to Boston for the New England Elite Football Clinic. And I tell myself, if I get a couple schools to sign up for this service, I had never worked with any teams before. It was just an idea. If I get a couple schools to sign up for the service, I can quit my job and this will take off. And in hindsight, that's a ridiculous, kind of stupid. I was just kind of a dummy for thinking that. But And my irrational exuberance ended up working to my benefit. So I fly out to New England Elite. I have my iPhone in my hand and this demo that I had put together of these digital yearbooks. And I'm walking up to coaches. I just walk up to coaches that are coaching these high school recruits, like on the field, and I pitch them my idea. I must have pitched like 30 or 40 coaches, and all of them basically said, "That's cool. Here's my email, and get back to me." No one signed up. At the very end of the clinic, I see this coach in a white shirt sitting down, going over some notes, and I noticed he's got a Wash U logo on his shirt, and I thought to myself, "Oh, one of my former teammates, his brother went to Wash U. I can maybe he knows him. It's a point of reference." So I walk up to this guy. His name is Larry Kinbaum, and I show him the product, just the idea as it was at the time, and he loved it. And I didn't hear back from him for like 3 weeks, but he got back to me. He's like, "Yeah, Chris, we want to do this." And then he plugged me in with another school, and it was born. It was born out of that stupid, silly idea to fly to Boston and cold introduce myself to coaches. And if I hadn't walked up to him, if I hadn't made that introduction and taken that risk, there's no question that the company wouldn't exist right now. And I would probably be doing something different to pay the bills. So it's kind of a cool story of taking chances, of having a sense of irrational exuberance. Like you think it's going to work, even though it shouldn't. So you kind of have to believe in it. And that's how it came to be. So it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, and Larry Kinbaum, just a great guy, a friend of mine who I got to know over the years. And boy, you couldn't have sat down next to a better person to explain that. So he's been on the podcast before. I'll link the one we did years ago in the show notes. But to describe the product a little bit might be useful. So sure. Chris mentioned it's called Story of the Season, and I equate it to this. It's like a digital scrapbook, right? I mean, I think he calls it a digital magazine, and it functions that way. But I thought what was so neat about this, when you think about any season, it is a story. We've had Chuck Kyle from Cleveland St. Ignatius talk about that, how every season is a story and has many chapters. And, we have all these neat things that we can, we capture pictures. They're on our phone. They're on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But there's never really been anything that aggregates all this stuff. And, you think about now, newspapers really no longer exist. I remember one of the teams, or several of the teams I coached, the moms would always get together after the season and, be in the field house and, cutting up articles and sharing pictures and putting together these huge scrapbooks, which I'm sure, those guys maybe look at, maybe once a year or every other year. Right. But, everything's digital now, and everything. We have all this stuff that gets captured. The highlights are easily shared right now. It used to be, when I started coaching, it was VHS. So imagine how difficult that would be. You had to go through videographers and stuff. So just really neat now how you've kind of went outside the box and thought about how can we put this all together in a place that players can have this through the year, that, you think about it, Chris, we now, a lot of people have families all over the country, whether that's, grandparents or aunts and uncles, family, friends that don't get out to games, and now actually through what you're doing, get a chance to experience that season as it's happening as well.
Yeah. It's really taken off, and it's been awesome. I describe it as, like a digital magazine. So we basically go in, we work closely with a team. We collect all of, like, the video highlights, articles, interviews, and we publish a weekly interactive, like, digital magazine that recaps the game, but it also has pre and post game interviews, videos of the fans. We try to cover the whole game day experience. And then, we publish that in the form of a really cool interactive magazine. And that gets sent out to, like, all the parents, alumni, and fans. And then, for high schools, it's really awesome as a
for a way to follow the season, because there's a huge gap there for high schools. For colleges, it's served more as a really cool recruiting tool. And obviously at the college level, a lot of the parents are more, it's a national scene. So you got parents all over the country, grandparents,
right.
and they love it because they can now follow the season interactively, and actually see the film itself, which they never had access to before. And then at the end of the season, we put it all together into a digital yearbook. So you have all these games. You can, like, with 2 clicks, you can basically go back and see all the important aspects of the game, and just relive those moments. And it's really fun to do. I love putting together the product and sharing it with people. But what's really special is knowing that, all right, in 5 or 10 years, these kids, these 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids, they're going to have something to show their kids, that I didn't have, you didn't have, something that just never existed until now. So it just makes me feel really great that we can capture these memories, and we can help, we can just give these players a way to capture all the blood, sweat, and tears of their seasons. That's my why, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you've showed me the examples of it, and I thought, wow, this is awesome. And it's neat. You have like articles, and it's not just a picture. So if you talk about like a certain play, boom, there it is, right there with the video. Really cool stuff. But the other thing is, as you and I were talking about it when you first showed me this concept, and you're talking about you had done it with the colleges, but you were looking at with this work for high schools, is that in a lot of ways high school coaches recruit as well, and being able to not just say the words about this is what my program is about, but actually put together things within this this digital magazine or yearbook actually shows a lot about the team. It shows, and it kind of makes all those philosophies, those things that you build culture around, all those things come to life that, again, you can send out in your community. You could send out to that, that 8th grader who's maybe thinking about going to a different school if he has that opportunity, and say, hey, this is what we're about, and this is what our program looks like. And just like you would recruit a college kid, I think it's just a huge asset to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And that, because I thought it was all about the memory at first, but when I did, especially last year, when I drove, a lot of my teams happen to be in the Midwest. I played my ball out there. The network's out there. So when I did a drive out to Chicago and Wisconsin and Indiana to meet with a bunch of the teams, it seemed to me the consensus was, these guys, it's great that the parents have a way to remember their careers and to remember their kids, but like they want a way to sell their program. They want a way to brand their team. They want a way to show, not tell, but show what they're all about. What it means to be a Shamrock for Westfield High School. What it means to be a Maroon for University of Chicago. And it's been cool to kind of tweak things and be able to provide now what seems to be more of like a really cool like team promotion. So now coaches come to me and they love the interactive recap of the games and stuff like that and the memories, but it's become more about recruiting. It's become more about branding their team. And so, now coaches reach out to us and they want a way to be able to engage recruits. And so we've kind of transformed what was this game recap platform and this digital yearbook into this really cool interactive customized recruiting magazine for your team. And it's been really cool because especially when COVID-19 hit and the entire sports industry was halted, recruiting possibly changed permanently. If you can't go to these players' houses, if you can't have them on your campus, how are you going to recruit them? And obviously there were a lot of, these virtual visits that teams did and Zoom calls. But what was really cool is that, for a lot of teams, we were able to to basically use the same technology that we use with Story of the Season and put together these cool customized digital magazines that talk about campus life, culture, football, what it's like to be a part of your team off the field, on the field. And so, things continue to evolve with time, and COVID-19 is actually proved to be a pretty positive thing for us in how we're able to leverage our platform to help, especially college teams, but also high school teams, promote their programs, sell their brand, and kind of attract more talent. So yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, the whole thing too is it's it's really authentic stuff. You showed me like some of the interviews, which were I don't know for sure, but probably shot like with an iPhone or something after a game with players, and just so much. Really, it's for the school doing it. It's like what do you want it to be? This. You have the ability to give us, whatever content you want and put it in it. So I thought that aspect of it was pretty cool as well.
It really can be whatever you want it to be. And so with each team, it kind of turns into something different. I mean, I know certain schools that are all about recruiting, and then other schools, they just want like a really cool way to keep the parents engaged. So it's something different for each school that we work with, but no question. I mean, just the format of it. It's not anything. It's not like I tell people all the time. I think it's a simple idea. I mean, we take a magazine and we insert video into it, and we embed tweets into it, and it's kind of like a hybrid between a magazine and a website, but it's such a clean, simple, professional way to promote your program and to share your story. So it can really morph into whatever it needs to be, and that's the beauty of it too. It's like it's not very hard to make this geared towards recruits. It's not too hard to make it geared towards mom, dad, and grandma and grandpa that live in California with a team in Chicago. So it's kind of like multivariate and flexible in that way. So that's a really cool feature of it too.
Yeah, and when you think about, we still don't know exactly, as you and I are recording here in the middle of June. We don't necessarily know exactly what's going to happen here with football. How much the fans are going to be allowed in, how many are going to be allowed in.
Yeah.
So it's one of those opportunities. I think for everybody, there's just this chance to get back out onto the field. It's been pretty emotional, and everybody having been shut down and in quarantine and having to stay home for a long time, being able to get back out and get that human interaction. And I think everybody's anxious for the start of sports, and, so be able to capture that, but also maybe provide something that can bridge that gap if there are some things restricting that the fans, the parents, the grandparents, et cetera, from being able to see this live, that this is a really neat way to do it.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. The biggest thing that I've done in the last couple months is just try to stay in touch with the coaches that we work with, and make sure that the relationship continues to grow. But I guess it's and you probably know better than I do, Coach, but I think it's a state by state thing. A lot of states are opening up, are ready to play ball. Other states are kind of hesitant. So we're going to see, but I don't think. I think if there aren't fans at the games, that really only elevates the value that something like Story of the Season can add to a team if fans can't be at the games. So we plan on growing through it and continuing to cover teams. But with or without fans, I think it's still great, and if there aren't fans, it only elevates the value that we can provide to a team, because now if you can't go to the game, you just get an email from Story of the Season every Wednesday, and you can see what happened. Well,
Chris, I love what you're doing, and be sure as we finish up here to share your Twitter and email where coaches could learn more about this. But I really appreciate you kind of sharing a little bit about how football has been a positive thing for you. For you, it's something that's grown a business, and it's just really neat to hear these stories. Really neat to see what you've put together. Just an outstanding product, and I appreciate you taking the time and sharing that here on the podcast.
Yeah, well, Coach, I put it right back on you because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if I didn't have great mentors and people in my life to make this a reality. So I want to put that right back on you. Thank you, and I hope some other some of the coaches can check us out and learn more. The Twitter is @StoryTheSeason. The website is storyoftheseason.com. And my email is simply chris@storyoftheseason.com. It's been a lot of fun. And I hope to continue giving teams a way to brand and brand their program and share their story. And, hopefully Story of the Season is something that hundreds of high schools and colleges can grow into that and continue to serve more athletes to totally change the way that they remember their careers. That's my goal. So, thank you for giving me this outlet to share my story and having me on. And thanks for everything you've done.
Absolutely, Chris. And thanks for taking the time and sharing just something I think that a lot of coaches will love.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.